So when we look at the new version of Electa software in treatment planning, effectively what we're wanting to do is we're really wanting to build on Electa's already quite integrated environment. So in terms of integration, what do I really mean? So I mean integration with our Mosaic OIS. And there are a number of features that we have in our new treatment planning system that really allows you to have a lot of the things that you need in Mosaic be able to be included as part of a template, which is able to feed a lot of that information right from the treatment planning system into Mosaic and then finally onto the treatment machine. So there are a number of features there which allow a really nice, easy data flow. We have increased flexibility with the Electa machine. So I'll talk a little bit later on about this concept of IntelliBeam, but effectively it allows the treatment planning system to drive the LINAC in a very unique way. We can unlock not just jaw tracking, but we can unlock the virtual leaf width, which allows the jaws to be able to feather between segments, allowing you extra flexibility and functionality in terms of modulation. We also have the variable control point spacing, which adds a large amount of functionality, including more segments in a particular arc. And then also, it also allows that segment shape optimization and a number of features around really trying to control the sequencing and the modulation that you can get within your plan to get really high quality results very, very simply and easily within the system. We're also really working on adaptability. So what do I mean by adaptability? Well, just some examples that we have is really around our templates. You know, our templates are hugely comprehensive and really can include everything that you could possibly need for radiotherapy planning. You have your tolerance tables, you have your course IDs, you have your prescription, which is part of the things that have come across into Mosaic, but also you have your IMRT optimization parameters. You have your sequencing parameters, your calculation properties, your deviate statistics. So these can all be included by just loading a template. And some of the other planning systems out there, you may be able to bring in a template, but essentially have to create a lot of those extra things for yourself. So our templates are very, very powerful and allows you to get planning straight away. Voxel layering. So we're a voxel-based planning system, and ultimately that eliminates the need to do any additional contouring. So I'm sure those who are familiar with other planning systems in this particular meeting know that you have to do quite a lot of cropping of your contours away from each other. In other planning systems, you can't have any contours which overlap. Now, that is an actual process to do. Someone has to actually do that process to be able to make sure that the contours are cropped adequately and accurately. And also they need to be checked before you actually go ahead with the planning process. As part of the Electa planning system, we use the optimization method to be able to crop away the constraint or crop away the objective for your planning. So that means that you don't need to do any cropping of your contours at all, which can severely reduce the amount of contours that you need to begin radiotherapy planning and reduce any sort of checking process that's there. We also have constraint-based optimization. Now, what do we mean by constraint-based optimization? Effectively, it creates the weights for you in your planning system. I remember planning in other treatment planning systems where I would always put the targets as 100 for the weightings and my organs at risk as 50. And when I asked my senior at the time why, they really couldn't explain why you actually did that for. So essentially, the Monaco treatment planning system really allows you to have that be done automatically through the planning system. And I think provides a very good way of providing some red flags or some red flashing lights that actually tell you when your plan has quite a lot of conflict and you need to address that to try and either prioritize your target or your organs at risk. So it makes it a very, very
Hello,
easy
William.
thing to solve.
Excuse me.
Yes? Yes?
Are you moving the slides?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Not
sure.
yet.
Yes. Try to complete in 30 minutes, please.
Of course.
Thank you.
And then finally, the Monaco Planning Assistant really adds workflow optimization over the top of it, and I'll describe that a little bit in a second. So when we talk about the integration between Monaco and Mosaic, there are a couple of really good examples to describe that, to actually reduce the time taken for administration and daily planning. So we have our demographic sharing. So what demographic sharing really does allow you to do is allows you to make sure that the patient is going to be perfectly imported into Mosaic. We also have common user authorization, a patient access log, but this automated plan export and promotion is a really nice feature that on approval of a plan, you can automatically decide where the plan is going to go. So obviously it's going to go to Mosaic, but you could also send it to Prono, RadCalc, Perfraction, any of your third-party QA tools. So this can all automatically be done just through simple one mouse click for your plan approval. Our SROs are managed within Monaco, but also our ISA Center PRO shifts are managed as well. Now you may wonder, what are the ISA Center PROs? So they are the patient relative offsets. And that means that you can enter in your ISA center relative to your tattoo positions in our treatment planning system. And that will feed into Mosaic and then finally onto the machine. So the idea is that you can set up to your treatment reference point, press a button, and it will automatically move to your ISA center, which is really quite nice, because I know as a radiation therapist, being able to calculate any of those shifts in your mind, it significantly reduces, if not eliminates, any sort of transcription or ISA center placement issues for our system. And we have a very good case study that shows the transition to our planning system and using Monaco Mosaic as an extreme amount of automation and time saving in terms of being able to get the best out of both applications. So just by having those two products, effectively, Genesis Care, which is one of our reference sites in Australia, is saving 20 minutes per plan during that plan finalization process. They've noticed a 75% reduction in transcription-related near misses during the planning process, just through that extreme amount of automation. And then they're also planning for over 30 Linacs across 16 sites in 3 Australian states. So it's a fantastic article. Please reach out to any of your elected representatives if you'd like to know more. The idea of IntelliBeam is really unique as well. So when we look at every other solution or every other combination, effectively you can have up to 180 control points per arc, and they have to be evenly spaced. Now, what that means is that it means that if you don't get the modulation that you need within the planning system or the particular arc, effectively you have to add another arc in. There's really no other way to do it. I remember doing planning in other systems where you would not get the plan quality you needed, and oh, do I just have to add another arc? But essentially, through the elector environment, you can have up to 240 control points, which can be spaced anywhere within the arc that you need. So this allows you to be highly flexible in terms of your modulation. It can reduce the overall treatment time because you're not adding in unnecessary beams or arcs or segments that you need. And it really can improve the overall quality of your radiotherapy planning. So here's just a couple of examples that I wanted to show you. Effectively, this is a right adrenal SBRT case. So really looking for high quality, being able to be delivered in really the shortest amount of time as possible. And ultimately, through the use of IntelliBeam, we're able to reduce the overall plan from 2 arcs to 1 compared to the reference that we have from another competitor, and effectively reduce the amount of the amount of monitor units as well. So we have almost a third the amount of monitor units, and the overall plan quality is extremely good. Also, less arcs, less MU, but then also larger segments as well. So effectively being able to reduce the overall segments in the plan and have that jaw, not just jaw tracking, but the overall virtual leaf width that allows the MLCs and the jaws to feather and track and to be able to add an extra amount of modulation to your overall plan. Here's another lung SBRT case. So again, looking at that extreme amount of plan quality, and also trying to ensure that a patient lying on the bed, their breathing is somewhat compromised anyway. So really trying to reduce the overall time of this patient's treatment. So very, very similar example of IntelliBeam. We're able to reduce the amount of arcs, but then significantly reduce the amount of monitor units and improve the overall sequencing as well. So less arcs, less monitor units, larger segmentation, to really improve the overall quality for this patient's treatment, and also make sure it's really quite efficient as well. In terms of the overall voxel layering, what we really want to do within our planning system is reduce this idea of an optimization loop. And effectively, that is when you try things, when you go through that planning process, the plan isn't working, and ultimately you're trying to find the best solution. And as I was mentioning, you're probably using a large amount of help structures to be able to achieve that. Effectively, you want to reduce that overall optimization loop by providing really nice feedback tools to really tell you if your plan is going in the right direction and what you need to change to be able to make it get better. I do plan challenges all the time, and ultimately I use the same tools to try and improve my plan quality every time I plan. And again, we don't need any of those help structures. I'll just brush over the template just in the interest of time, but effectively, as I said, the templates really do control and have all of the things that you could possibly need for radiotherapy planning. And by simply having the template include a lot of those things, you can really have everything available that you could possibly need. These visualization tools I was talking about before really do guide you to make sure that you're going in the right direction. This variation tool effectively tells you where your constraints working the hardest within a volume. So you can dynamically adjust your shrink margin or your cropping to be able to optimize your treatment plan. And this relaxed response feature actually tells you if you adjust the constraint where the dose is going to go. So rather than be able to try things and have the doctor say, oh, I want you to try and reduce the dose of the brainstem, you can actually tell if you adjust the dose of the brainstem where the dose is going to go. So you can be very, very predictable in terms of trying to improve plan quality and understand the conflicts. And then finally, the cost function sensitivity is a really nice function that tells you how to get your target coverage better. So it really does give you a host of tools to be able to improve things. And if I just take a really good example of how this all works together quite well, effectively this right brain lesion, if you can imagine, there's lots of organs at risk which are overlapping. Now, if you were to plan this in another system, you would do quite a lot of in and out structures. You would do a huge amount of cropping. And also, how do you know that you're being able to prioritize the right organs at risk while maintaining your target coverage? It's very difficult if you actually lock the weights. But effectively, through using all the features that are available, you don't need to use any additional structures. If you look at the structures on the right-hand side, they are all of the structures that we use for optimization. And effectively, these are all the ones that we used in the Elekta solution. So it really does allow you a nice, predictable way of planning. So what is the Elekta planning system, and what are we doing in the new version of Monaco 6? Effectively, we're including scripting. And what scripting is scripting is at its essence, an application processing interface. Or in another way of talking, it's a dictionary that allows you to link all of the actions or all of the button clicks within the planning system, now linked to a piece of code. And these bits of code can be combined together that the Monaco planning assistant can now execute to do some work for you. So how it does that is it does the work exactly like a user would do and has access to almost all of the functionality within the application. And it's a really exciting development. We also have included a way to manage a lot of these scripts or a lot of these workflows. So this is a planning assistant window, which can sit alongside the planning system and really create a nice, easy, accessible way for you to be able to visualize the scripts or the workflows you have available and being able to run them nice and easy. So you can import and share these scripts as well. So we actually encourage users to share these amongst the community. But we can also have a favorites list as well, because we anticipate that these lists can sometimes be quite large, especially for quite proficient institutions. But we can also triage their access as well. So we can have a bunch of users who can only use approved scripts, and then a level of people who can try and experiment and to be able to develop scripts for the general population. So this allows you to have a really tight level of governance around how these scripts are being executed. Just in the interest of time, I'll just go into how we can automate the current workflows. So if you take a typical planning process, effectively, no matter what sort of area or treatment site you're planning, the process is largely the same. We are importing data, we're making sure that the correct clinic and the CT to ED file is correct. We're loading templates. And as I said, our templates really do contain quite a comprehensive list of information we can use to start planning very, very quickly. We have multi-criterial, we have a phase 1 optimization, so we can actually have a very easy way of looking at what the dose is going to be like before moving to a segmentation process. And then we have a feature called segment shape optimization, where the planning system will be adjusting the MLC shapes for you to try and improve plan quality, reduce the overall monitor units, and reduce the segments for you. So it's a little bit like, those who are familiar with Pinnacle, a little bit like a DMPO process, but it's much more sophisticated. You have an adjustment phase where you're looking at feedback tools. You're looking at the weights and you're looking at the goals of the overall optimization, making those changes to try and improve plan quality for you, and then that finalization process. And effectively, all of those things are included in the Monaco scripting application. So you can import data, you can export data, you can bring in templates, you can print reports, you can create QA plans. There are a whole host of things that we have within the scripting environment. And effectively, one of our pilot sites, Genesis Care, found that it was very, very easy to start scripting, because using scripting combined with very powerful templates really allows you to begin writing effective code very, 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 very quickly. So in summary, the Monaco scripting is really a series of commands that can execute processes exactly the same as a person would do, but it's being run entirely through the application and entirely through the computer. So what are the advantages of using scripting? Well, you can really improve efficiency. I have a site in Indonesia that CT scans about 18 patients per day on several CT scanners. And they have the planning system import all their data for them at the end of the day. So they have no user interaction in being able to import that data, which saves a lot of time and really improves the efficiency of the overall department. And you can really create consistent workflows too. So you can be able to run multiple cases multiple times. What type of tasks can be automated using Monaco scripting? As I mentioned, you can import and export patients. You can create and calculate plans. You can generate reports, create QA plans, and much more. And if we take one of our pilot sites, effectively 50% of all their plans have some form of scripting assistance. And then 50% of those are almost completely automated, so they barely touch them at all. They've noticed a greater than 50% reduction in overall planning time. Most plans are approved within 24 hours. And the only reason why it's 24 hours is because doctors go home and have a sleep. So they're able to have an extreme amount of efficiency by using this process. And their planning productivity is also increased as well. So here's a very simple video that basically shows how the scripting environment can work. Effectively, I have a cell here, which I'm going to input a patient name and a particular template. And as I said, they really control everything that you could possibly need to be able to run the process. So now it's going to open up the planning system. And again, this is having no human interaction at all. It's finding the patient, it's finding the data set, and then it's loading that particular template. So once it's loading the template, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, the template really does include a whole host of things. It includes all your IMRT constraints, your beam characteristics, your DVH parameters, your calculation properties, your sequencing parameters. There are just so many things within the actual template that really makes that process really easy to plan. I've also included multi-criterial in this, so it's automatically driving down your organ at risk dose to try and improve plan quality. And then what it's doing is once it's actually reviewed that, it's going to move through to the segmentation process. Okay. You can also do batch QA planning. So here is another script that we have that just takes a list of patients and automatically creates those QA plans for you. So again, rather than sitting and creating all the QA plans, and really for those who are routinely doing plan QA, it can really be like watching paint dry, if I'm honest. So having a task that's able to automate that process for you can really speed things up. So if we look at the actual implementation of the new version of our treatment planning system, effectively we have really amazing results. If we look at Genesis Care, the hospital network in Australia, they have both another planning system and ours, and effectively they're doing almost 7,500 plans per month. And if you look at the amount of automation that they're able to actually get from the system, they're really having about 20% of those plans almost zero touch. So really, really good results. And then about 48% of them are requiring minor editing, which is usually a rescale. So that means that, again, not only are you creating a huge amount of automation, but then you can really look at moving the actual radiotherapy planning to more of a reviewing process rather than being something that you have to begin from scratch every single time. The last thing I want to talk about very quickly is how to actually QA automation, and I guess looking at possibly combining with some patient-reported outcomes. And this was a very good article out of from 2019, which effectively looked at tools for really standardizing and automating any sort of automation process, and also looking at trying to improve overall plan quality as well. And they did say the barrier to any new technology implementation really does rely on the ability to assess things in a flexible but consistent way, having something that's clinically integrated, and also having high quality data collection and reporting. And really that is where our Prono software or our plan analytics software really assists any of the move to any sort of automation process. So Prono is our cloud-based solution that allows you to hold radiotherapy plan data in a scalable network that allows you to identify outliers in big populations and drive consistency. So you could put all of your radiotherapy plans in here and be able to look at the big population of your planning department, but also drill down to individual patients in terms of a simple mouse click. You can look at, you can correlate custom metrics with treatment plans and your efficiency, complexity, and also it has a comprehensive Python API which underpins the product too. So you can do, again, quite a lot of scripting without needing to open the application. So you can look at multiple plans against multiple scorecards, and it really does contain everything you could possibly need for plan analysis. So really, just to summarize, effectively the Elector Planning Assistant with Monaco really allows an extreme amount of efficiency. We can add a huge amount of workflow automation and really build on the processes that are already within the application. We can really look at quality. So we can look at process control and really try and identify ways to improve the overall plan quality process. And then finally, I think it really allows us to review workflow. This is a wonderful chance to review optimal ways of working and to be able to better use the Elector workflows and the Elector technology that's available. And with that, I'll finish my presentation. Thank you very much for having me, and I wish you a wonderful conference.